Welcome back. We are now turning our attention to Liverpool. Andrew Robertson signed from Hull for £8 million in 2017. Since then, the right back has become one of the most important players in the side and forged a formidable fullback partnership with Trent Alexander-Arnold. In the victory against Burnley last weekend, he made his 150th Premier League appearance for the club. He's been chatting to Simon Crabtree.
Andy, let's start with the Burnley game, but only because that was the 150th Premier League appearance in a Liverpool shirt. So, how would you sum up your time so far at Liverpool Football Club?
Yeah, I've loved it. Obviously, at the start, I wasn't playing as much, but behind the scenes a lot was going on. I was working, really hard, trying to wait for my opportunity, and I think people seen when it came. Then I just tried to take it, and I tried to enjoy every minute of it. And ever since I've done that. Any minutes I get on the pitch, I've always tried to enjoy it, wearing this football shirt, representing the club, representing the fans, and that will continue. I still get as much enjoyment on my 150th as I did in my first, and hopefully that continues, because I'm loving my football at the minute.
Domestically, obviously you've won the Premier League, the big one, I suppose. Cup competitions, both here and back home for you. You've never managed to get that winner's medal yet. You're still on all four fronts here. So domestically, cup competition-wise, how important are they to you? And can you remember the disappointment maybe from that cup final when you were at Dundee United?
Yeah, I remember it well. I remember, that was my first kind of big disappointment as a professional footballer. The Dundee United season couldn't have went any better up to that point, and it still annoys me that I left, with that, that being my last game. So I remember how important it was, how big it was for our city and everything then, and it's the same here. We've not done as well in domestic competitions than we would like to over the last couple of years, and we've obviously got a good chance to put that right. We've came over every hurdle so far, and now we've got a big one against Chelsea at Wembley. It's going to be tough, and we look forward to it. But domestic cup competitions are so important. They give you momentum, and we realise how good a cup run is. And that game against Arsenal and beating them away, and our fans behind the goal, it was incredible, and we want to create happy memories at Wembley as well.
And as I say, you could still win all four. Can you still win all four?
We certainly try. We're fighting on all fronts. We're involved in every tournament still, and that's good going. Obviously well into February, and we're still competing for all four. But it's always tough. It's always incredibly tough to do that. But we look to win every single game, and we always have that attitude. And of course, it doesn't always work out that way. But if we do that, then yeah, I suppose we'll win all four. But it's not. Like I said, it's not as easy as that. We've got, the Premier League, obviously, we're points behind Man City, and if they win every game, which, they can do pretty easily. We've seen how many long winning runs that both of us can go on, and if they do that, then they'll be Premier League champions. Champions League is just starting back up again. We've got a really tough tie against Inter Milan, and we have to focus on that. And we know how good a run it was, the last, the 2 years we got to the final, and we loved every moment of it, and we'd love to create memories like that again. Carabao Cup's the closest one, of course, because we're in the final. We've already ticked off a lot of boxes in that, but it's going to be a tough one, and then FA Cup's always exciting. So we look forward to it. We love fighting on all fronts, especially near the end of the season, and it makes it exciting, and hopefully we stay in them as long as we can.
Well, he is a talented player, Andy Robertson, there's no denying that, but he doesn't play on the side I just said about. He doesn't play on both sides, as I've just suggested. They're what a story, Wrighty. They're the kind of stories that we love in the Premier League, aren't we? His journey has been remarkable.
It's been brilliant, from Scotland to Hull. And I remember watching him at Hull, how great he was. When you watch a player and you see him in the game against Hull, and because they're under so much pressure, but he's doing all the things that you're supposed to do when you're a good left back. He's defending brilliantly, he's passing to midfielder, he's crossing the ball, he's doing everything. I remember watching thinking, wow, he's really good. You know what I mean? But then obviously when you're playing in a team that's under so much pressure, you're doing a lot of work, maybe a lot of mistakes, but you can easily see where a Liverpool scout's watching him and saying, that's the guy, because he's got everything.
It's impressive scouting, isn't it, really, to go and spot him as they did at Hull, and for him to go on and win the Champions League, the Premier League with Liverpool the way he has.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes these type of scouting things go underneath the radar because there's been so many poor signings. But I think we were talking about in the break, you know, when Liverpool signed him, it wasn't like everyone was hyping him, similar to Ramsdale at Arsenal. People kind of thought, oh, they're not very good signings, and turned out to be remarkable. And I think we have to give him a lot of credit for his consistency. I think it is different when Virgil van Dijk's in there as well. I think it gives Trent and him the luxury to be able to go. But I would absolutely love to play with Trent and him because they provide a service. You know, in this day and age, the wing backs, they're almost like a forward, aren't they? It's hard to believe that they're defenders. You know, we joked about they play left or right, but they can play anywhere. And they're almost like cogs in an engine, but the consistency, and they're there to provide a service. They give the ball to Salah, they feed the ball in through the lines, and they're a joy to watch. But you don't see fullbacks like Andy Robertson anymore, I don't think. You know, the types of players that get the ball in, whip the ball, can defend, can attack, can do absolutely everything. And the consistency of him is unbelievable. And Trent, the services they provide, and they get up, they get down. I do think they are better, and I mean most players would be better. I'd probably play centre back well with Virgil van Dijk because he's that good. But like I do think they are better when he is in the team. When he was injured, I think there was that little bit of hesitation because Liverpool had to change their centre backs so many times. But you know, we look here and we see, you know, they have the luxury. They know when to go, they know when to hold. You know, and sometimes both of them go at the same time, and that's something we were always taught. If one fullback goes, the other one has to stay. But at times, both of them go at the same time, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, so much of it is about the understanding that a lot of those Liverpool players have played together for quite some time now, but the understanding that Andy Robertson seems to have with the rest of that back line and even the players in front of it was quite impressive.
Yeah, totally. And Leanne touched on it there. I mean, when he was signed, it was almost like that was the same summer they signed Salah, and he's really almost dismissed a little bit as someone he might come into the team a bit, a kind of another option. Where as you say, he's been a core part of this Klopp era. He's been, and one of their leaders. And I remember talking to a coach at another Premier League club who was talking about how you prepare for Liverpool. And he said when they were at their absolute peak in 2019-20, they were almost impossible because the key to the team was basically the 2 8s in midfield and the 2 fullbacks who would just have that line and they'd pen you right in, couldn't get out. And so, it's I suppose the way modern football has gone, and even as Leanne touched on there with their position, where an attacking role is also a defensive role because they pen you in, that's a defensive move, but of course it's just completely overwhelming you in attack. And there, I suppose it's not just how good they are as players, but it's also how physically fit they are, Trent and Andy Robertson.
I like the word that Leanne used when you were describing, use the word engine.
Yeah.
And that is what they have, isn't it? His fitness, and he never stops running up and down. When you watch Liverpool, they're always, him and Trent, always making those runs.
And I think when he signed for Liverpool, it was interesting, he didn't play for a while, and you listen to Jurgen Klopp's interviews and he said when we watched him in training he had everything, but when you go to a team like that, you come from Hull, go to a team like that, an elite team like that, there's certain things you have to learn exactly what they do. And when you see what Liverpool do, what him and Trent do, in the way that they keep teams hemmed in, and then once they do hem them in, then they're able to totally punish them. You have to learn that, you know, because I was thinking when he went to Liverpool, when's he going to get his chance? You know what I mean? And then you look at him now and the way he plays, and you can see with the elite teams, you have to learn how to play in that team. It's like Lee Dixon and Nigel Winterburn when they came to Arsenal, Nigel from Wimbledon, Lee from Stoke. You have to learn how to play in that team. And once they've got it, you look at them, it's formidable. You look at what Trent's doing now. Trent's popping up in everywhere, in and around the pitch. He's like got license to go and do stuff. Same with Andy Robertson. Once you get it in the Liverpool side, it's amazing to watch that.
And their delivery as well. You know, I think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you saw Gary Neville, David Beckham could be able to put a ball in the box, whereas the fullbacks almost became those, you know, wide players that used to get there and put it in. But they pick out a player. Something so basic in football they do. They're able to see if it's Firmino or Salah and pick the right option, and their decision making is fantastic.
But I do generally wonder whether Beckham would have been a right wing back today in the Trent role.
Because you look at it, they're both like, when you look at Trent and Andy Robertson, they're like a Beckham and Neville rolled into one. They're both, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, I used to be a full-back in my limited career. It used to be the most unfashionable position on the pitch. But now, I suppose, with the way the game has gone and how, because of modern sports science, because of how fast it is, it's probably natural that it's become maybe the key attacking position because they've got so much space to run into.
Well, you can just look at how many teams use the fullbacks as their main supply line. You look at, like I say, you look at Trent and Andy Robertson. They've got license to go and do anything they want.
Are they the best fullback pairing in the league?
Yeah. I don't think I think you can look at even like Cancel, yes, but when you look at them as a pairing,
and for a long period of time
in the world,
as well. Chelsea before these games, and Chilwell got injured. I think I'm not saying they were up there, but they were the only two that I could see come close to these two. But these two have been up there for a couple of years now.
If you talk to people at Chelsea now, they put the injuries to James and Chilwell down as one of the main reasons they've fallen out of the title race. And like Tuchel describes them as, because one of the issues with Chelsea this season basically is they haven't clicked up front with Lukaku yet. They haven't got the connections. But Tuchel will, like, privately, he'll describe Chilwell and James as they're not fullbacks, they play as my 10s.
Well, they were the top goal scorers before they got injured.
It goes back to our conversation a bit about Spurs as well, in terms of Antonio Conte probably wants his fullbacks to do similar roles to what these players do, but he maybe doesn't have the players. It shows that fullbacks are so important now in the way Premier League teams play.
That's what Leanne said. Has he got the calibre of player to execute what he wants to do? Because we've seen Liverpool, and Liverpool have got the two of the best in the world for me. And when you look at Liverpool's midfield, even though they've got Thiago, who's very creative, their main creativity comes from those two guys. They don't need the two midfield guys to be the creative element of that team, because you've got two guys who can do everything and get the ball to those three unbelievable players they've got up front. So that's where they can be potent. And a lot of teams try to do it, but they've not got as much quality as these two.
I suppose we've gone on a little bit of a tangent now, but like...
Sorry, that was my fault, because I've brought it back to Spurs. The fullbacks chat keeps coming up, doesn't it?
No, but I was about to say, like, what I was about to say was a tangent, but in terms of, like, it's like Trent is almost... He's almost an example of... I know we're getting away from Andy Robertson, given he was doing interviewed, but Alexander-Arnold is almost kind of an example of the player of the future, because if you talk to people, especially around, say, the Italian team that won Euro 2020, the talk in Italy of the way the game is going to go, apparently, is that people are already getting away from formations, but they're talking about how we actually have to get away from labels on positions, because it's no longer about your position. You're no longer a left back, as we're saying, or right back. It's about your specific role, and about, like, so suddenly, and even as Wright was saying there about Thiago, I was actually just thinking that traditionally we would, like, central midfield would have been the kind of the creative. That's where the creativity came from. Whereas now, because where the game is played, you need creativity from other areas, and Alexander-Arnold is a perfect example of that. So all that discussion about, should Alexander-Arnold move into midfield? Well, actually, that would arguably take away from where he's dangerous.
I think that's what Jurgen Klopp kind of was intimating, wasn't he, when he was asked about that? He was saying, why would you play him in midfield? Let's look at Liverpool more broadly then, because it's probably quite a good time to be a Liverpool fan right now. As Andy Robertson said in that interview, still in 4 competitions, and when he was asked, can you win 4? He said, we'll give it a good go. And they're in a pretty good position, especially now when you look at that squad depth, which I think was evident last night.
Well, when you look at what Liverpool's resources to the rest of the teams, like the City and the Chelsea, and what they're capable of doing, what Liverpool are doing, and the way they're signing players. Even now they've signed Diaz as well, somebody that they've obviously signed because at some stage someone out of that free is going to replace someone. So they're looking so far forward in what they're doing, and they don't waste their money. So whoever comes in, they'll take their time, because I thought that the Diaz deal was going to happen in the summer, but they brought it forward. I think that they needed the money as well, the team. But the fact is that he's got all this time now till the end of the season to learn what they're doing. And then I'm sure, like, next season we'll start to see, because when you look at what Liverpool are capable of and how they're able to try and stay with those juggernauts in respects of financial muscle, right? With the players that they sign who come in and do it, it is remarkable. It's commendable what they're doing, and the players are all delivering.
It's interesting how football is as well, because I think I was one of the only people in the summer that said Liverpool would be okay, and because they weren't signing loads of players in the summer, Jurgen Klopp has a plan of what he wants to do, and those players that come in, even Harvey Elliott last night, fantastic player, come back from injury. You know, they've got Curtis Jones in the midfield as well. Like, they have this young talent. Whoever seems to play seems to get a job done. Firmino, like, arguably people critique him for not scoring a lot of goals, but now look at him, and he keeps all these players happy. But a lot of people said, Liverpool needed to spend more in the summer, but I said it was actually amazing because they re-signed Alisson Becker and Virgil van Dijk, arguably, like, to long-term contracts, which to me is like a massive signing in itself.
It almost as if these managers that look at their teams all summer and in pre-season actually know what they're talking about. They know what squad they've got in front of them. What have you made of the signing of Luis Diaz and the way he's settled in?
Well, just about to say there, as the guys have gone on about Liverpool's foresight, whereas it's almost, I mean, whatever about how good Diaz is now, which he is, it's solving a problem before it becomes a problem, because by the time it comes to, say, if Sadio Mane leaves, and like it has been mooted for a while given his contract situation, you can see the uncertainty over Salah, but they've already got ready replacement. They don't have to worry about it if it actually comes to it. And so it's someone who can both slot in and succeed him.
Look at that, their attacking options they've now got. When people, if only a few months ago, they were saying they haven't got the strength in depth. Now they've got Luis Diaz, Firmino, Jota, he went off injured last night, but now you don't worry as much, do you, Wrighty, when you look at those names there?
No, you don't. I think you look at Minamino and Origi, and they're probably two of the players they probably could move on, and maybe if they can get someone else in. But other than that, you look at Diaz and Jota. You've already got Mane, Firmino, and Salah. You've already got two guys there already that you like to feel like Jota's already. He's amazing. You know, so if Diaz can replicate anything like that, you can see they've already got a couple that are going to maybe replace them. Can they replace them to the levels that Mane and Salah have been playing at? It's a different story. Can they bring someone else in who can do what Firmino does? Because I'm not sure many players can do it as well as he does it. So it's going to be interesting to see what Liverpool do going on with more signings. But at the moment, it's absolutely perfect the way they're doing it.
Do you notice as well that the players that do come in, they kind of just slot in? Unlike when players sign for Manchester United, it's almost like such a toxic environment that they can't seem to perform. Doesn't matter who's in there. Whereas these players seem to go to Liverpool. Jota, you know, coming from Wolves, he settled in straight away.
Yeah,
and if he wasn't injured, then he would have obviously have scored more goals. But he's been unbelievable.
But
Diaz come in.
What they do, which obviously Man United probably don't do, and we're seeing that, is that they've probably looked at the player, his mentality, what he's about. That's proper recruitment. You're not buying the shiniest thing. You know, they're buying somebody that they know that if we work on him properly, he is going to do this job. Whereas you mentioned Man United, unfortunately for Man United at the moment, they're buying players and they're putting them into the team because they're very, very good players. Yeah. But the plan has not been thought out. And that's the problem that United have.
Look, the biggest difference between those clubs. City, long before Pep, and like Pep basically came into a club ready-made for him, because City knew exactly what they wanted to be as a team. Everything was built towards an idea. Same with Liverpool. So every single position, as Leanne says, they're signing people for specific roles. Manchester United, they don't really know what they want to be as a team. Hence they keep chopping and changing. There's a squad signed to 4 different managers, and now Rangnick is trying to kind of fashion a new identity onto a team that's arguably not very suited, although it's pretty suited to Sancho, as you say, which is why he's suddenly one of the few players
playing well,
actually performing.
Let's move on, because I was in a good mood until
I was going to interject at that point and say, I know that this is something that Leanne doesn't like talking about too much. We'll move on. Let's focus on Liverpool. Probably something you don't really like focusing on either, but sorry.
Credit where it's due.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is all about as well. Just a word on that injury to Jota, because I said then when we see their attacking options, it isn't as much of an issue, the fact that he's injured, because they've got these other players, but it is still a blow, isn't it? We obviously don't know. I think last thing they said last night was that it was potentially ankle ligaments when he was taken off at half-time.
Well, you hope it's not too bad, because ankle ligaments are really bad. I've had ankle ligaments, and they're worse than the breaking the actual ankle. So you're hoping it's not going to be too long, because we've seen in recent weeks how important he is. You know, we saw that Liverpool were able to deal with the Mane and Salah omission with the AFCON because of what Jota was able to do and the goals he's able to score. And I remember watching him against Arsenal, he was magnificent. So it's a shame that he's got injured, but at the same time, they have got those two guys back. They haven't taken too much of a hit in respect of points, and so you're hoping that they can remain injury-free, because if then one of those get injured, whether it's Salah who doesn't seem to get injured,
don't say that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, touch wood,
yeah. But if they can remain injury-free, then you have to say that hopefully he'll have enough time to be able to come back.
How long does it take you to get back to full speed after a long-term injury? I'm thinking Virgil van Dijk in this situation, Leanne, because you'll have had injuries as a player, long-term ones as well. And a few people were saying at the beginning of this season, very quick to judge, weren't they, saying, oh, he's not back to where he was before. How long does it take, though?
It takes a while, but I think it's because people are looking for it. You know, I had the same injury as Virgil van Dijk, and it takes a while to come back. But you're talking elite level, professional football, like in the men's game. It is so fast and stuff like that. But I never had any doubt that he would get back to the way he was. But I think when you have that type of injury, if someone makes a mistake and they might not be able to turn as quick, they're like, oh, it's because of the injury. No, it's due to game time as well. But the fact that he's back, you know, and that guy is on a different level. For me, he's probably the best centre-back in the world, based upon the fact that, you know, I didn't have a true understanding for how good he really is until I saw him live, you know, a couple of years ago. And you watch him and you're like, is this guy really, like, he can play about 7 games in a row, doesn't break sweat, always in the right position. And to me, it was never in doubt. But I think when you have an injury like that, it does take a long time to come back. But I think people are obviously looking for it.
And the stats don't lie. When Liverpool have Van Dijk, they're a better team. We can see it here. Miguel, he makes such an impact, doesn't he? In terms of the most important signings, we've spoken about Andy Robertson, we've spoken about Jota, we'll speak about Salah as well, I'm sure. But there haven't been too many more important signings than him. No,
he's transformative. I mean, I actually don't think it's an exaggeration to say he had the single biggest effect on a team than maybe any player since Cantona. Just the way he lifted Liverpool up a level. And if you talk to people around the Liverpool squad, they'll say that it's not just Van Dijk's qualities, but it's also the assurance those qualities give, that because they know they have Van Dijk there in front of Alisson, they take up so much that the rest of the team, those fullbacks that we're talking about, can bomb forward. And sometimes I watch him and think it's almost like it's Paul McGrath, Franco Baresi and Cannavaro rolled into one.
Absolutely.
Because he's got so many of their qualities.
Yeah. It was brilliant watching him at Celtic playing exactly how he's playing now. Yeah. People not signing him, Southampton taking the plunge and buying him, they've got to get a lot of credit for that. But then for Liverpool to take him, and people saying things like, well, look how he's playing, yeah, he's only doing it because he's in Scotland, he won't get where he's at in the Premier League. He actually got to the Premier League and it's easier for him in the Premier League. He's actually making it easier for himself. And I'd go back to say, with the injury, and it is a real bad injury he's had, but what people take for granted with someone like Virgil, he's so intelligent. Even though he will get his pace and he doesn't look any slower, he gets himself in the right position anyway, tactically. Yeah. So, you're not going to... People can't look at him and say, oh, it's because of the injury. You're not seeing him blasted anywhere. You're not seeing him taken out. Oh, my God, that's not what Virgil's normally like. He's in control of everything.
One of my favourite quotes that I've heard, Troy Deeney said about him after he played, but he's so annoying, he's so good that he even smells amazing, even when he's played 90 minutes as well. So there's nothing that man can't do, he even sweats a lovely aftershave. And which competition is more important, do you think, for Liverpool this season? What will they be targeting in that dressing room right now, Leanne?
Probably the Champions League. I think the fact that they've won it before, I think it's something that they desperately will want to do again. But I think the league, that's something they would have been targeting because they have aspirations. But I just think Man City, for me, it's already wrapped up.
Yeah, that it is looking that way, isn't it? Although Liverpool will look to keep on their coattails, and maybe if City can lose at home to Spurs, as Miguel's predicted this weekend, there could still be a title race there. Do you think they'll be looking elsewhere though because of that?
Well, we could have a 2019 situation where just because of the way it pans out, it could suit Liverpool more, the champion. Not that it falls into their lap, but it could end up being the one they win. They've got a greater chance of it, while City win the league when they both want the other. Because I still think, if it came right down to it, Liverpool would want the league, especially because if they get it, they go to 20 titles and match Manchester United's record. The one thing, even if Spurs don't get the result we predict this weekend, if Liverpool...
We predict, you said we're all predicting.
Yeah, sorry,
Not me.
Yeah, we predicted. We'll take the credit for that if it happens.
But if Liverpool can stay within 6 points of City until they go there in April, I don't think it's completely off. No. Because Liverpool can still go on that run.
They've got that game in hand as well, haven't they, as well?
And that's what they'll be thinking, Kels. They'll be thinking that. They've got to make sure that happens. If they can stay 6 points, then play them, and beat them, and it goes down to 3. It's a whole different story. This is why Man City themselves, they won't be taking anything for granted. You hear Pep or any of them talking about it. They know exactly the situation they're in now and what Liverpool are doing. Liverpool not dropping any points through that AFCON. They're right amongst City. They're the ones who are putting it on City. I still think that Liverpool believe that they might be able to still do it, and I fancy Liverpool probably think they could do the Champions League as well.
You saying Liverpool fancy they can do it? What does Wright think?
I fancy. I'm not going to write Liverpool off. I think I'm going to go with Liverpool
to win the league.
Yeah, I'm going to go. With Liverpool.
That is a bold statement. We've had Spurs beating Man City. I'm still linking into your prediction.
You're all right today. You're all right.
Yeah. No, it's all opinions. The game's based on opinions, and there's so many permutations that you can't write anything.
It's possible, but I can't see.
But on that as well, actually, the way Guardiola constructs their physical regime, it's usually to peak in November, December, and then February, March, usually with the vision that they kind of motor away with the title because they get so many points. But that's it. If Liverpool are still in with a shout and City just slightly drop off on level, because it's happened to them in the Champions League, then City are just that bit more vulnerable. Usually they're banking on being so far ahead.
That's all it is.
And before then as well, though, they've of course got the Carabao Cup final. They've still got the FA Cup as well, as we were hearing. 4 competitions. They could have won their first trophy by the end of this month, Leanne.
Yeah, definitely, and they're in to win it all. That's what they want to do, and I think it's possible. They have the squad depth to do that. I think it's about run of form, but I genuinely cannot see anyone beating Man City. I can't see that happening. I think mathematically it's possible, that Liverpool can win the league, but I just think Man City are too good. But they're in all 4 competitions and they're going to want to win all 4, otherwise they wouldn't be in them. And I think Liverpool are the only team that are really equipped physically to be able to do this. We saw them last season having all those injuries, and I think that's mostly based upon the amount of training environment they have at Liverpool. They train exactly like they play. There's no tapering down with Klopp. So I think they can definitely win it all. I really can, but I still think City will win the league. It's possible, but I think City will win the league.
I think that Liverpool are quite happy that City are doing as brilliant as they are. Even the way they played the other day, they were fantastic, because it makes Liverpool continue to go under the radar. People are not even talking about, like what Miguel mentioned there, that they could go there 6 points, win that game. It's down to 3. All of a sudden, everyone goes, where did that come from? That is what Liverpool will be hoping to continue to happen.
That's basically happened in '98, didn't it?
Yes.
Suddenly Arsenal beat United.
Everybody was saying, oh, United, they're so amazing.
Are you trying to wind me up today, guys?
I tell you what, guys, I think at this point we'll take a short break right now. Liverpool certainly having a brilliant season so far, and Wrighty still thinks the best could be yet.
Thiago on Inter win, small details and squad strength. Thiago Alcantara believes Liverpool's season has been building to results like Wednesday's 2-0 win over International at San Siro. Goals in the final 15 minutes from Roberto Firmino and Mohamed Salah ensured the Reds emerged from a testing Champions League last 16 first-leg clash with a valuable victory. Jurgen Klopp's side have won all 7 of their European games this season and are on a run of 7 consecutive victories in all competitions. I think we have played to arrive at this moment and have the chance to play these kind of games, Thiago told LiverpoolFC.com post-match in Milan. We were waiting for these kind of games and we were ready for that all this season, so we are glad to be here. Read the rest of our interview with the number 6 below. On Liverpool having to suffer during the match but coming through with an excellent result. We are talking about the biggest stage in the Champions League against an historically great team like Inter, playing here, trying to win the game. I think in the first half we created a lot of chances, then in the second they started to dominate the game, and then fortunately we had this fabulous header from Bobby, and after that we really controlled the game and we won it more, got the second one. We are really happy with the result. On Klopp crediting assistant manager Peter Cruyff and the Reds analysts for the set-piece routine that led to Firmino's goal. We always say that we have a great staff who prepare us for these type of actions, and also we are really aware in training. In the end, in the Champions League the small details are the difference, and we got them tonight. On the influence of the players who came off the bench and the strength in depth in Liverpool's squad helping. For sure. The pitch didn't help both teams physically, and we had a bit of heavy legs in the second half, and then came the fresh legs inside, great people, technical people. So after that we controlled even more the game.